All right, so today we're going to dive into a story that's both fascinating and kind of infuriating. It's about a woman named Lise Meitner, and honestly, her life just makes you wonder how much brilliance the world has missed out on because of things like prejudice and just missed opportunities.
Yeah, totally. I mean, imagine this. It's 1878. You're born in Vienna. You're clearly brilliant, drawn to science, but you're also a woman. And at that time, that basically meant that a career in science was, well, pretty much off the table.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about those kinds of barriers, but Lise Meitner, she didn't let that stop her. This woman went on to become one of the first women in all of Austria to earn a doctorate in physics, in 1906, no less.
That's wild. 1906, that just shows you how much determination she must have had.
Absolutely. And that's just the beginning of her story. Meitner went on to make groundbreaking discoveries, particularly in the field of nuclear fission. Yet she was often overlooked and even outright denied credit for her work.
Yeah, the more I've read about her, the more I'm just struck by the sheer injustice of it all. It makes you question, like, how often does this happen? How many brilliant minds are out there who never get the recognition they deserve simply because they don't fit the mold?
Such an important question. That's exactly what we're going to unpack in this deep dive. We're going to use the research and articles you've pulled together to really get a sense of Meitner's remarkable journey, her crucial contributions to physics, and the unbelievable hurdles she had to overcome.
Yeah, let's do it. I think it's a story that really needs to be told and understood.
Agreed. So let's rewind back to Vienna in the late 19th century. What was it like for Lise Meitner growing up and pursuing her education in such a restrictive environment?
Well, from the sources you sent, it was clear that even getting a basic education was a struggle for girls back then. Higher education, especially in the sciences, forget about it. It was seen as a man's domain.
Wow. So how did she even get started? Like, what kind of support did she have?
It seems like her family was fairly progressive, at least for the time. They recognized her potential and actually encouraged her intellectual pursuits. But even with that, she had to fight tooth and nail for every opportunity. She faced resistance from teachers, from peers, even from the institutions themselves. But she persisted.
And ultimately, she earned her doctorate. That's a huge accomplishment. But what happened after that? Did having that doctorate open doors for her?
To some extent, yes. It definitely gave her more credibility and helped her land a position in Berlin, which at that time was kind of like the Silicon Valley of physics research.
I can imagine.
It was a hub for some of the most brilliant minds in the field.
And that's what she met Otto Hahn, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Otto Hahn was a brilliant chemist, and he and Meitner formed a really strong partnership. They were both fascinated by this new field of radioactivity, and they were determined to unravel its secrets.
So just to make sure I'm following, radioactivity, that's basically when atoms spontaneously release energy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So atoms are made up of a nucleus, which contains protons and neutrons, and then electrons orbiting around that nucleus. Some atoms have unstable nuclei, and they try to become more stable by releasing energy in the form of particles or radiation. That process is radioactivity.
Ah, okay, got it. So Meitner and Hahn were basically trying to figure out how all of that worked, and they were doing this in Berlin in the early 1900s. That must have been an incredible time to be involved in scientific research.
Oh, absolutely. It was a period of just incredible discovery and change. The whole scientific world was abuzz with new ideas and theories, and Meitner and Hahn were right there at the forefront of it all, making crucial contributions to our understanding of the atom.
It's amazing, really. But even amidst all that excitement, it seems like Meitner couldn't escape the pervasive discrimination against women in science.
Yeah, that's the sad reality of it. Despite her obvious brilliance and her crucial role in their research partnership, she was consistently treated as a second-class citizen. She was paid less than Hahn, often denied proper lab space, and her name was often left off publications, even when she'd made significant contributions to the research.
It's hard to even imagine having to deal with that kind of blatant disrespect while doing such groundbreaking work.
I know, it's incredibly frustrating, but unfortunately, it was a common experience for women in science at that time. The scientific establishment was still very much a boys' club.
And then, of course, things took a horrific turn with the rise of Nazi Germany.
Right. Meitner was Jewish, and the situation for Jewish people in Germany rapidly deteriorated. By 1938, it became too dangerous for her to stay. She was forced to flee, leaving behind everything she had worked for.
That must have been a terrifying and heartbreaking experience. To have to abandon your home, your work, your entire life.
It was. She managed to escape to Sweden, but she arrived with almost nothing. No lab, no equipment, no resources. and she was separated from her longtime research partner. It was a devastating blow, both personally and professionally.
Yet even in the face of all that, she didn't give up. In fact, this is when she made perhaps her most significant contribution to science. This is the story of nuclear fission, right?
This is where it gets really interesting. It's honestly a testament to her brilliance and resilience. So Hahn continued their experiments in Berlin, and he got some really strange results when he bombarded uranium atoms with neutrons. He didn't quite understand what was happening. So he wrote to Meitner, even though they were now separated by borders and ideology.
Wow. So even with all that was going on, they were still collaborating, sharing ideas.
Yeah, it's really remarkable. And through their letters, Meitner, along with her nephew, Otto Frisch, who was also a physicist, was able to provide the theoretical explanation for Hahn's results. They realized that the uranium atom was actually splitting into two smaller atoms, and that this process released an enormous amount of energy. They called it nuclear fission.
This is like atomic bomb level stuff, right?
Exactly. It was a revolutionary discovery. It showed that the atom, this tiny, tiny building block of matter, actually contained unimaginable amounts of energy, and that this energy could be released under the right conditions.
And this was all happening during World War II, right? I mean, the implications of this discovery must have been immediately apparent.
Oh, absolutely. The potential for both good and bad was enormous. Nuclear fission could be used to create a weapon of unprecedented destructive power, but it could also be harnessed for peaceful purposes, like generating electricity. And Meitner was acutely aware of both sides of this coin.
It's pretty powerful to read about her stance on the potential weaponization of her discovery. She famously said, "I will have nothing to do with a bomb."
Right. She refused to participate in the Manhattan Project, which was the U.S. effort to develop the atomic bomb. She was deeply troubled by the potential consequences of unleashing such a weapon on the world. She saw the potential for unimaginable destruction and was committed to advocating for the peaceful use of nuclear energy.
Which makes the decision of the Nobel Committee in 1944 all the more shocking. They awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry to Otto Hahn for the discovery of nuclear fission, but completely ignored Lise Meitner's crucial role.
Yeah, that's the real injustice in this story. Meitner's contribution was fundamental to the understanding of nuclear fission. Without her theoretical insights, Hahn wouldn't have even known what he was looking at. Yet, she was completely excluded from the Nobel Prize.
It's infuriating, really. It's like a textbook example of how women's contributions to science have been so often minimized or erased throughout history.
Absolutely. It highlights the systemic biases that were so deeply embedded in the scientific community at that time. It wasn't just an oversight, it was a deliberate act of exclusion.
So what happened after that? How did Meitner react to being so blatantly snubbed by the Nobel Committee?
You know, it's remarkable. Despite this huge injustice, she never became bitter. She continued to work to mentor younger scientists and to advocate for the peaceful use of nuclear energy. She really focused on the positive and continued to make significant contributions to the field.
That's pretty amazing. To be able to maintain that level of grace and dedication in the face of such blatant discrimination, it speaks volumes about her character.
Totally. She was truly a remarkable woman, both as a scientist and as a human being.
And it's fitting, though perhaps far too late, that element 109 on the periodic table was named Meitnerium in her honor. At least that's some small measure of recognition for her groundbreaking work.
Yeah, it's a small but important gesture. It ensures that her name, her legacy, will forever be associated with the field of nuclear physics.
And it serves as a powerful reminder to us all to look beyond the surface, to dig deeper, to really understand the full story behind scientific discoveries.
Right. Because so often there are hidden figures, like Lise Meitner, whose contributions have been overlooked or minimized. And it's our responsibility to uncover those stories, to give credit where credit is due, and to challenge the systems that perpetuate these kinds of injustices.
Absolutely. So to everyone listening, I want to leave you with this. As you go about your day, your work, your life, think about the Lise Meitners in your own fields, in your own communities. Think about the unsung heroes, the people working behind the scenes, the people whose voices aren't always heard. Seek them out. Amplify their work, and challenge the systems that might be holding them back.
It's a call to action for all of us. We can each play a part in creating a more just and equitable world where everyone has the opportunity to contribute their brilliance, regardless of their gender, their background, or their circumstances.
And if Lise Meitner could overcome the obstacles she faced and make such a profound impact on the world, it gives me hope that we can all do our part to create a better future.
I agree. Her story is a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit And it's a reminder that we can all make a difference, no matter how challenging the circumstances.
So let's all take that inspiration and go out and make some positive change in the world. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a more just and equitable world for everyone.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And thank you to all our listeners. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the stories that matter.